Jim, my husband, drove up and called me and said it was gone. Not a fire truck in sight. I didn't cry until about 48 hours later, and I had one big cry over the house, and that was it.
So we evacuated at 7:30 p.m. and had been tipped off to a map that was showing the properties that had burned. And so throughout the night we were refreshing our phones from a friend's house where we were staying. And I was like in a daze the entire night of like just kind of this in and out of sleep, nightmare-y state. But the whole night I was under the impression that my house had somehow, by the graces of God, gotten skipped because of this map. And when we woke up in the morning, my husband wanted to go to the house just to like triple check and confirm. And so, like you, he got in the car and drove nervously up there. And I got a call about 30 minutes later where he was just in tears. My home was also my place of work in my home kitchen. It was sort of like the heart of the home. We called it the great room.
I had a little 1,000-square-foot house, and when Jim and I married, that was fine for a while. And then he began to bake bread. And very shortly, my little kitchen, it was an open kitchen into the living room and the dining area, everything was covered with bread glue. And I was like, we need a bigger kitchen. And at first I thought, let's just pop it out like 7 feet. That turned into 17, turned into 23. And before we knew it, we'd had designed a great big freestanding kitchen. I'm short, so no overhead cabinets. And in the place of overhead cabinets, we had windows. One of the things that I wanted in the kitchen was a sofa. And so we had this beautiful long window seat with big welted cushions, and every morning we would wake up and drink our tea and coffee there with the dog and look out into the garden and get ready for the day.
We had also a sitting area which was right off the kitchen, which is where we would start the day. And my husband's a furniture designer, so all of it was his furniture. We had a built-in couch, the first coffee table he ever made, and then a chaise lounge, which didn't really have a use until I had my son 10 months ago and became the perfect place to nurse. And it was just kind of a perfect place for us.
I rebelled. I didn't cook. I didn't cook for 2 months. I cooked like 2 dinners, and it was the same dinner where I just have a bunch of cherry tomatoes and stick them in on a sheet pan, boil some pasta, and that was it. I mean, I say I wasn't traumatized, but it really was a blur.
Mm-hmm. I didn't cook for a while either. It was takeout of some kind for the first 2 weeks, I think. And then the first moment that I got back into the kitchen was to finish working on a recipe that I had started at my house, which was the recipe I was working on the day of the fires, which was a recipe for a burnt bass quiche. The kind of ironic thing about it is that one of the last things that I said in the house before I left to the woman, Nora, who works with me in the kitchen, as I pulled it out of the oven, I said to her, damn, I just wish it were a little more burnt. Because it just wasn't as dark as I wanted it. And I had this vision of a really burnished exterior on this quiche. And so the quiche got burnt. But that felt like the right first thing to cook. And it was really comforting and really cathartic, and I made everyone else leave the kitchen, and I was like, I'm cooking, but I need to be alone and in this by myself.
Somebody once said to me, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and I'm like, no, it's not. The loss of people that I've loved, some bad breakups in my youth, Now, those were bad. This was bad too, but it's not the worst thing.
People say like, oh my God, you lost everything. And that's not really an accurate description. We lost all of the physical things, but it sort of just highlights what you do have, which is like your relationships and your community. And that becomes the most important thing in the world. Like my friends and my family and the people who are holding me in all of this are everything to me right now. And all of the kind of bullshit just like washes away, and you learn and understand like that living is actually about like humanity and people, and the rest can burn down and you're going to be okay.